The Walleye making their way to Florida for Game 3 of the Kelly Cup Finals. Meanwhile, Matt Melzak not traveling nearly as far, but making his way over to join us in studio to break down Games 1 and 2. Matt, how are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to that big travel. That'll be coming up for me tomorrow and getting down there and hopefully calling some wins.
I'm here for the positivity because Toledo needs it. They find themselves down 0-2 after falling 3-1 in Game 2 on Saturday. And history shows teams have only overcome that 0-2 deficit 3 times in finals history. How did the Walleye become that 4th team to bounce back?
Well, first you got to start with that positive line that you just said. There have been 3 teams that have done this before. And I think you look at Toledo being a very good road team throughout the playoffs. They won 3 straight games in Utah on the road. Let's not forget that. Not an easy place to play. This is a team that's comfortable in the road environment. Sometimes you got to get away from the distraction. And sometimes it's actually easier to start as a road team than it is as a home team because of those extra factors that go in. And, now you get away from that. Now you get back home, you get on the road. Everybody's just together as a team. You go to the rink, you practice, you get in that mindset. And then all of a sudden you can go play. And, it's Florida, their turn now. They'll have to deal with a lot of the extracurriculars, all the family that's probably going to fly down there and want to be there in case they win, and all of those things. So those all factors now go to Florida while Toledo can just focus on playing the games. And you know what? Let's face it, neither one of these games were exactly blowouts. It's not like Toledo was run out of the barn where you go, man, they don't stand a chance. They led 2-0 halfway through Game 1. It just didn't work out for them. They ended up losing. They were down 3-1 in a game that they actually had a goal at the beginning of the game that was taken away. They could have led that game. We don't know how that game would have went if that was the case. So there's certainly a lot of positives. It's not that far out of the realm of possibility to see Toledo not only win a game down there in Florida, but maybe multiple games. We see this series at least come back to Toledo.
You mentioned it, Toledo solid on the road, and you got to give credit to the Everblades, one of the best teams on the road in this league. The Walleye 6-1-1 in the playoffs. When it comes to being that traveling team, you mentioned the emotions and the experiences that went into this situation for the Walleye. How did they kind of use that to their advantage in Florida territory?
Well, I mean, first off, you've got to play the simple style of game, and that's what Florida did so well. There's a reason why they're 8-1 on the road in the playoffs, and they had a way better road record in the regular season than they did at home. Because when you get on the road as a simple team, one that just makes sure you clog everything up in your zone, which is what they did. You could see it multiple times in the games over the weekend. They'll let guys have the puck at the point. They're just basically playing almost like they're on a penalty kill sometimes, where they'll just sag back in front of their goaltender. They'll block a lot of shots. They won't allow some of those passes that Toledo's so accustomed with. Sometimes when you get on the road, you play a more patient game. It's not that you play better or you play worse. It's you play more patient. And sometimes when you're at home, you're trying to make something happen instead of just letting things happen. And Toledo, we saw it in the Utah series, especially that Game 4 where they were down 4-0. They just kept playing a very patient game. And as slowly but surely as the game wore on, they kept getting their opportunities. And when you start to get opportunities, you have the horses to finish. Toledo certainly has that.
If you're a team like Toledo and you're trying to come from behind in this series, with the Walleye and their veteran experience, who do you kind of turn to take the lead going into Game 3?
Well, I think your stars have to become stars for you in the remainder of the series. So that means TJ Hensick has to have some great games in there. You got to have a multiple goal effort from Brandon Hawkins. Josh Dickinson has to have a couple of great setups for you. You look at that second line, Mitchell Hurd's got to get involved physically. Showcase a little bit of that, force some turnovers. Patrick Curry's got to use his speed. Your guys that you rely on to do those things for you, they have to do them at a high level now, especially in Game 3, because you can't fall down 3-0. That's priority 1. You've got to find a way to win Game 3, because that at least gives you an opportunity. It forces a Game 5, puts more pressure on Florida, because now they know they have to win the next 2, because they don't want to come back. Even though they're a good road team, they don't want to have to come back to Toledo because they know what can happen there. They saw it in the beginning of Game 1 when Toledo blitzkrieged them for 30 minutes of that game. Probably should have been up 5 or 6-0. They weren't because of their goaltender on that Florida side and Johnson. So they know you have to go to your stars. They have to be stars now the remainder of the series for Toledo to come back and win.
We'll see what happens when the puck drops on Wednesday night as Toledo tries to work their way back into this series. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time, and don't forget you can catch that game right here on BCSN.